Another big expense that people tell me about is student loan debt. Now, when I graduated college in 2005, student loan debt wasn't a thing. I mean, I got really lucky that I went to a state university, so you're just paying, whatever college, whatever the scale was at the time. It was reasonable. Yeah, I had to work a part-time job, and yes, I had help from my aunts who were thankfully they created a small fund for me when I was born. I think the 503c or
Oh yeah.
five. Was that what it called?
No, the 529.
529, yes. So I had that ready for me to go to college, and there wasn't much money in there compared to today's terms, but it was plenty for me to pay for my college credits and my books. And I just lived at home, and I graduated in 4 years. Lucky for me, but the people don't have the luxury anymore. Going to any university, even a state university, I mean, you're looking at $30,000-$40,000 on the low end. And if you want to go to med school or something, you're talking about $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in debt or in student fees you're going to have to pay, which means you're probably going to have to take that much money out in debt. And people do it because you get hung up on this, I need a degree in whatever field because that is going to allow me the ticket that I need to go get that big paying job at whatever law firm or Google or Wall Street, whatever it is. So I need that before I can go over there. So I'll take that $200,000 on of debt because it's going to pay for itself down the line. Now, student loan debt is interesting. If people don't know this, you cannot declare bankruptcy on student loan debt. Once you take out the funds for student loan, you own that. So it doesn't matter how much money you're making. Uncle Sam's going to want his money back for getting you to go to college. And I see a mindset with some people my generation, which is I got fill in the blank amount of student loan debt. I'm never going to pay it off. I'll just keep paying the minimum. And then maybe one day it'll just magically go away. And then I'll just deal with it whenever, or maybe, I'll pass on and it's someone could just write it off for me. But then it's going to affect you when you want to go and try and get a loan for something else because now you own all that debt. And I think it's affecting the way people are thinking about going to college nowadays, which is it even worth it to go to college? Talk about some of your, without naming names, talk about some of your client experiences with student loan debt and how that's affected them.
Yeah, and it's funny because especially the past couple years with all this talk about, the government forgiving student loans and blah, 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 blah. I have noticed that most people that have student debt, they just kind of push it aside. Like they don't view it as lumped in with the rest of their debt. It's like, it's kind of an afterthought. And so, and I don't know if it's because there's been all of this talk about student loan forgiveness, but if I can tell anybody anything, and if you take anything away from this podcast episode, is like, do not rely on the government to do anything for you financially, period. They're there for their own interest. Okay. They're not going to help you out. They might help out a little bit, but the only person who can take control of your finances is you. Nobody else is going to come along to save you, unfortunately. So the best course of action is to tackle it hard as soon as you can. And, get out of that mindset of just paying the minimums for the rest of your life. It really, and there is something really empowering too, when you can sit there and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I did this. I knowingly took out this loan. And now I will say student loans, they are predatory. The compound interest that happens on student loans is disgusting. And the fact that you are having 18, 19-year-olds sign on this dotted line who have no concept of personal finance because it's not taught in our schools, and they are tied to this for the rest of their life, is predatory and disgusting, and I think it needs to stop. So I will say that. But if you signed on that dotted line, like you said, it's your obligation. You have to make the choice to do something about it. And it is empowering to sit there and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I regret this. And I wish that I would have made a better decision, but I'm going to correct it now so my future self doesn't look back and wish that I did something when I could.
You know what? The other thing about that too that I was realizing as you were speaking about all that is how that just student loan, since we're on the topic of student loans, how that is impacting people of my generation when we have kids, or people my age who are having kids who are saying, you know what, little junior, I will put something away in case you want to go to college, but should you ever have to spend more on this, I don't want you taking out student loan debt. In fact, think twice about, do you need this degree? Especially if you're, no offense to anybody who's an art major or an English major, good luck trying to get a job with that, because there's not really a demand for English degrees out there or art degrees unless you're specifically in one area or you're that one off talent. Maybe you can make it, and hey, if you do, great job. But for the majority of people, most of these degrees don't. The facade was they guaranteed you a job, and they just don't anymore. Everybody has a degree, so the mindset with companies is, okay, you got a degree, you can check that box up, but what else you got? Because everybody else who applied has the same degree or better. Maybe they went to a better school, quote unquote, or a more well-known school, and you're trying to compete with that. Now you realize in the job market that this isn't the golden ticket that I thought it was. So I just spent $50,000, and now I'm still trying to find a job, and I have to go work at Chipotle. No disrespect to anybody who works at Chipotle, but if that's not what you plan to do after college, you might just have to take what you got to take. And what does that mean when you say compounding interest? Because most people probably don't even understand. Well, I thought student loan debt was a set payment. So what does this mean when it gets bigger? So talk about that.
So let's this is going to be some simple math for you to do. It's called the rule of 72. So this works the same way for investing. Okay, so your student loans compound in interest the same way your investments do in your retirement. So it's the rule of 72. So you take whatever that interest rate is, whatever your interest rate is on your loan, whatever your interest rate is on your investments, and divide 72 by that number. And whatever that number is, that's how many years that balance will double. If you don't. But now it's a little bit slightly different when it comes to the loan because you are paying down. But if you're paying interest only, it's not like so for example, I'm trying to think of like some quick math really quick. So let's say student loans I don't know that too many have a 10% interest rate, but let's, for sake of math, easy math, 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. So if you have a $100,000 student loan, that loan's going to double in 7.2 years unless you pay more than the interest.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And
that's how we've gotten to the point where we're at.
You're right. I think people are so overwhelmed by that number of the student loan debt that you're right. They might be holding out hope that one day the government will just forgive this. So if I don't pay it, then they'll forgive it one day. So I might as well put that money somewhere else, not realizing, but hopefully just looking the other way, like the ostrich and putting their head in the ground, that it's just not something that's going to be there. But yeah, I mean, it really does affect most people that I know around here because you're right. They just sort of put it to the side. It's not real debt, because especially when the government's dangling this whole carrot of we can take care of it one day, when there's no real evidence that that's going to happen. Yeah. And even if some of them take $10,000, someone's going to pay that somewhere. It's probably going to go back to the taxpayers. So you're going to have to pay it back anyway, just in a different way that you don't see clearly as well.
And really, and I don't want to get into like conspiracy theories or anything like that, but there is part of it too, this whole dangling the carrot that you're saying, that to me is a little insidious, because who benefits on the back end? The government. That's why the only person who can take control of your finances is you. The government is not going to help you out, because the longer they keep people in limbo, they're still going to get their money at the end.
Much like credit card companies with interest, they'll dangle the rewards and everything that you could use it for. And some people who do it right will take full advantage of that. And the credit card companies will say, great, good job. You earned it. Here's your free trips, whatever, without paying interest because you did it the right way. But we know 9 other people out of that 10 are going to do it the wrong way. So we'll make our money on the back end because you did it the right way. And I think that same thing goes for a lot of things in finances, is that we're going to show you what you can get. And people see that, but then if you don't do it right, you don't follow all the terms, eventually that money is going to get paid back tenfold to the people who own that debt, whether the banks, the government, whatever it is.